Hello and welcome to At the Leadership Table with retired Major General Jim Hoyer. Oftentimes people hear the word leader and they think only of political leaders, but leaders come in many forms, and that's worth exploring. I'm Jim Hoyer, born and raised in West Virginia, a husband, a father, a new grandfather, and a retired military leader, serving for over 40 years in public leadership for our state and nation. Now, the most important mission I have going forward is to educate, motivate, and empower our next generation of leaders. At the leadership table with me today is William Ihelenfeld. William was the U.S. Attorney during two tenures for the Northern District of West Virginia. He also served as a West Virginia state senator. He is now a partner at Flannery and Georgalis, a national law firm that has recently expanded services into West Virginia. I've had the opportunity of working with him in both his United States Attorney role and his role as a state senator, and just want to reinforce to our audience that in both of those roles, I knew him and have known him to be an outstanding public servant who is focused on taking care of the people of West Virginia. Did a lot of work together related to veterans, as well as dealing with helping seniors who might be getting scammed by folks. We're going to be talking about that as well. So, William, it's great to have you on today at the leadership table.
It's great to be here, General. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
So I'm going to start out by asking you the same first question we ask all of our guests, and that is, please share with us a standout leadership moment when you learned something really important about leadership.
I've come to believe that one isn't necessarily born a leader, although I think some people are. That wasn't the case for me. I've had the benefit throughout my life of having some really strong leaders at different parts of my journey, starting with my father and my mother, also my grandparents. And then as I moved into my professional life, I've had the opportunity to work for some outstanding leaders. And a couple of those leaders stand out to me when you ask that question about a great example of leadership. The first that comes to mind is when I was a young cub of a prosecutor, fresh out of law school, thrown into the courtroom in Ohio County with a big stack of files, going up against attorneys who were much more experienced than I was. And the chief public defender at that time was just kicking my butt back and forth across the courtroom, and really maybe going a little bit too far with taking advantage of a young prosecutor. And my boss, Melvin Kale, who went on to become the United States Attorney, was the elected Ohio County prosecutor at the time, was in the courtroom just observing. And he went up to my opponent afterwards and just gave the guy a mouthful and said, just told him how he felt. And at the time, I was a little embarrassed that he did that. I didn't feel like I needed someone to stand up for me. But upon reflecting upon it after years had gone by, I really respected the fact that my boss had my back, and he was able to and willing to stand up and fight for me and fight with me. And what that taught me is that when I became the United States Attorney, that I needed to have the back of my staff, to stand up for them, to take the heat, perhaps when something negative had happened, not because it was their fault, but just, as the leader of the office, the buck stops with you.
And William, I think those are absolutely some great examples. And as we've both seen in our leadership roles, when people realize you have their back and people realize you're prepared to take care of their families, they're going to go above and beyond the call of duty to serve the mission of the organization. You have a significant reputation in dealing with drug epidemic in West Virginia, particularly related to opioid addiction, as well as the fentanyl challenges that we face. But another area that you've been exceptionally involved in is taking care of our seniors. Tell us a little bit about the work you did as U.S. Attorney and some of the recommendations that you made in that role to our seniors in particular.
Yeah, that's continues to be a serious problem in West Virginia and throughout the country. And it's our elderly, our older West Virginians who are really being targeted by these scammers. And some of the reasons why they're being targeted is because one, older people tend to be a little more trusting. Sometimes they're lonely, sometimes they're widowed. Oftentimes they've paid off their mortgage. They have some money in the bank account. They are attractive targets for these fraudsters. And so we spent a lot of time at the U.S. Attorney's Office trying to protect older West Virginians, not only by doing outreach, actually going out and speaking to older West Virginians at nursing homes and other community events, but also by prosecuting these cases and by being really aggressive and identifying these cases and trying to prevent the crimes from occurring in the first place. We also have scams that don't involve strangers, but sadly, people that we know, people right within our own families. And those are probably some of the toughest cases I worked on, when you had a son or a daughter stealing from their mom or their dad or grandma or grandpa. And then we also have situations where in-home caregivers come in, and it's not real sophisticated, but they're coming in and taking care of your elderly loved one. And they're taking their credit card, they're taking their debit card, and they're swiping it to buy groceries and do other things. And so not much sophistication involved there at all, just simply someone who has access to your the tools and your accounts in order to access those accounts are taking advantage of it. So and then, of course, artificial intelligence creates a whole nother issue. And I know you wanted to talk about that as well, General.
Yeah, so I've had a situation myself where individuals have taken likenesses, because we, as you and I both, having been public figures, a lot of images out there have taken that information and created false accounts, sometimes to scam other people. I had one case where they created an adjutant general's profile, and they were out attempting to collect funds for what they said was a Wounded Warrior Foundation. What's some of the first recommendations that you would give people in dealing with that, both from somebody who's been exploited, their image has been exploited, but also to those who are being exploited?
Stepping back to what we were talking about a moment ago with elder financial exploitation, one of the common scams that we see is when a loved one, someone who you believe is a loved one, calls you and tells you that they're in trouble, and they claim to be your grandchild, and that they've been in a car accident or they've been arrested and they need money right away, or else they're going to go to jail and spend the night in jail. And in the past, we didn't have the technology, but people were still being fooled by this. It's very easy to be fooled by this. Now, with the technology that exists, the voice can be mimicked. The face can be mimicked. You can make it look like you are the person, the relative, the grandchild, the niece, the nephew. And so it's AI is going to make it that much easier for fraudsters to take advantage of people who think their loved ones are in trouble. Moving forward to what you just mentioned, what can you do if your identity's been stolen in order to somehow commit some sort of a fraud? Obviously, one thing you can do is report it to the platform where your image is being utilized, whether that's Facebook or Instagram or whatever platform is being utilized. Let them know so that that account can be shut down. If you feel like your finances are at risk, if you feel like someone has stolen your identity and they're trying to tap into your bank accounts, your credit cards, things like that, I always tell people, one, look at your bank statements and your credit cards daily. Don't wait for that statement at the end of the month. The other thing you can do is you can freeze your credit. You can actually call the credit bureaus. You can freeze your credit, and no one can use your date of birth and social security number to take out credit And if you don't need credit for any reason anytime soon, buy a car, buy a house, whatever it may be, you can lock that down. Last thing I'll say, be very careful with your debit card. Credit cards have a lot more protections when you use them. So if someone does use your credit card without your permission, it's really easy to call your credit card company, tell them about it, and that charge gets canceled.
So, in both of your tours of duty as U.S. Attorney, you had to place a significant amount of leadership emphasis on dealing with the drug epidemic that was across the United States, but has particularly hit us hard here in West Virginia. Can you talk just a little bit about that and your philosophy of dealing with both sides of the effort?
When I came in the first time, we were still dealing with a prescription pill epidemic that was starting to sort of evolve into a heroin epidemic. So prescribing guidelines were put into place. Everyone was starting to sort of calm down a little bit in that area. And so folks on the street shifted over to heroin, which was the chemical cousin of oxycodone, and they were able to get the same sort of high. And then around 2016, 2017, that heroin problem shifted into a fentanyl problem, which it was and is the deadliest threat to public safety I've ever experienced and that most have ever experienced. It has just been devastating. The numbers of people who have died as a result of fentanyl overdoses. Fortunately, we're starting to see that trend downward. We're going in the right direction now, but we spent a lot of time pursuing anyone and everyone who was trafficking in fentanyl. Oftentimes, the people never set foot in West Virginia. They were calling the shots from California or from New Jersey or from Michigan, but we were able to use our federal statutes to reach into those states, bring those people here, prosecute them, and convict them. The other side of that, though, like you mentioned, is the prevention and treatment. And we spent a lot of time talking to young people, sending evidence-based prevention messages to children, starting in kindergarten. There's a message for children in kindergarten. It's different than the message you give to someone in college, but everyone needs to hear about it, learn about it, understand the impact on the brain, the effects of it. And we put a lot of time and effort into prevention programming. And then, treatment is the other side of that. Just because someone has suffered from addiction doesn't mean they can't recover, doesn't mean they can't bounce back. And so we supported those efforts as well, because that's what we hope to do it. And I think probably the best thing we did with treatment is the federal drug court that we stood up. There never been a federal drug court in West Virginia, and the success rate is really staggering. And Judge Bailey, the judge in Wheeling, was the first judge to do it, and now Judge Alloway works on it, and others work on it as well. But if every person you take from the drug user column and move them over into the column of a sober person, that's less money for the drug trafficking organizations. And so one by one, we are taking people who have fortunately survived their addiction and making them not only, helping them to become sober, but helping them to find employment and housing and become productive citizens. And it doesn't get a lot of attention, but there are a lot of success stories out there.
You put a tremendous amount of effort in making sure that education piece and that treatment and drug court piece got into place. So I think we should, we all in West Virginia owe you a debt of gratitude for that work. Doesn't get a lot of headlines, but it is really important work.
I appreciate that. And as you're talking about that, it made me think of one of the most important things I think we collectively did at the U.S. Attorney's Office was to highlight the day we seized the rainbow fentanyl in Morgantown. That just kind of, from a PR standpoint, just kind of blew up in a good way. And that word got out that these counterfeit pills that looked like candy or maybe looked like, and were stamped to be an oxycodone or a Xanax or maybe an Adderall, actually contained fentanyl. And we had large amounts coming into the Morgantown region. And so we did something that was atypical, and that was to have a press conference before anyone was prosecuted to say, look, this is what is coming in here. We don't typically like to show our evidence, but we thought that it was so important from a public safety standpoint just to raise awareness about it that we pushed it out there so everyone could see what was coming into the state. And that goes back to what you were saying about prevention and spreading the word on college campuses and throughout the state that you can't trust anything. And I said this multiple times during interviews, you can't trust anything you're putting in your body unless it's, coming from your doctor through your pharmacist. Otherwise, for the longest time, it may still be the case. If you're buying a pill on the streets or getting something from a friend, there's a good chance it contains some amount of fentanyl.
So you've played both the public servant role and an exceptionally well done manner, in my opinion. Now you've bringing this new capability to West Virginia. You're obviously fully invested as a native West Virginian in making the state better. So what motivates you to keep the state moving forward? And tell our audience what you have in the way of, you believe, your biggest hope for the state of West Virginia moving forward.
Yeah, I'm excited that I've been able to find a place that will allow me to stay in West Virginia. I had opportunities to go elsewhere. I thought about leaving. My kids are grown now, but this is perfect for me because I want to stay here and live here the rest of my life. My children motivate me. They've motivated me ever since they were born. So they were young. I was a young prosecutor living in Wheeling, West Virginia. And I was motivated to keep the community safe, to do everything I could to hold offenders accountable, violent criminals, child predators, drug dealers, you name it. I handled all those cases. And they motivated me. I mean, I had pictures of all three on my desk, and every day I looked up, and that's what made me get up and do it again each and every day. It's funny, I always wanted my parents to be proud of me. Now I want my children to be proud of me. It's just kind of shifted a little bit. As far as what I want to see for the state, I want to see more economic opportunities. I want to see more housing. I want to see more affordable housing. I see that as a big issue here. I just want to see public policies that encourage people to move here, young people to stay here. That the population decline needs to stop. It just keeps seeing that trend downward. I want to see it go in the other direction.
So you've now changed up a bit. You are helping to lead the expansion of Flannery and Georgalis, a new law firm in West Virginia. You decided to stay in West Virginia to continue your legal career. Tell us a little bit about that, what's going on, and what your objectives and goals are there.
Yeah, it's exciting. So Flannery Georgalis is a very unique law firm. There's nothing like it in West Virginia. So at Flannery Georgalis, we're problem solvers. We help people solve problems, oftentimes through litigation in state and federal courts throughout West Virginia and across the country. So we help good people who find themselves in a bad situation, and we help to solve their problems. It's fun. It's exciting. We do a lot of, one thing I'll highlight, we do a lot of corporate victim work. And by that, I mean, you might have a corporation that has been the victim of embezzlement, or there might be a situation involving sexual harassment in the workplace. We're asked to come in and do an internal investigation. We're asked to come in and figure out, well, where did the money go? Who took it? And we put together a report that oftentimes will get turned over to the local prosecutor or to the U.S. Attorney's Office. There might be civil litigation that results because of that. You might have to terminate the employee. Or, as I said, with sexual harassment, we might not only identify that that's occurred, we'll make recommendations on how to make sure it doesn't happen again, to protect the people at the company, to protect the victim, and just to ensure it doesn't ever happen again. So we do a lot of that kind of work. We've got great investigators who can come in, look at balance sheets, look at personnel records, and figure out what's happening at a company and help to make sure it doesn't happen again.
I think that most everybody would agree with me that when you heard the name William Ihlenfeld, people didn't look at you from the sense of a political affiliation. They looked at you as a West Virginian out on a mission to make our state better. So for that, I thank you for your work, and I also thank you for taking the time to come on at the leadership table and tell our listeners a little bit about the great work that you've done.
Thank you, General. It's been a real honor to speak with you, and thanks for doing this.
Thanks for listening. This has been At the Leadership Table with retired Major General Jim Hoyer.